Welcome to Eat Sleep Nerd, a podcast where you can check out, go AFK, and relax with us as we discuss all things nerd. Comic books, video games, movies, TV shows, and anything else that gets geeks more excited than Galadriel finally getting to choose violence.
Welcome to episode number 26. I am your dorky DJ, Corey Winter, and as always, I am joined by my nerdy brother, Josh Winter, and our geeky friend, Jason Summer. In this episode, we have a ton to talk about, including Hugh Jackman's triumphant return as Wolverine in Deadpool 3, Google Stadia shutting down, the production drama of the Blade movie, and more. And in the second half of the episode, we get into our spoiler reviews and discussion of She-Hulk Episode 7, House of the Dragon Episode 6, The Rings of Power Episode 6, and Star Wars Andor Episode 4. Jason, Josh, hi.
Hello.
Why is that your hello?
Well, I mean, it kind of fits him, don't you think?
It does. How are you guys doing?
Hey, it's been like a week since I talked to you guys.
Has it?
Yeah. Corey,
Okay.
What have you been doing this week?
This is already off to a great start. So, I have been remodeling my office, which is not what you see behind me, but I'm almost done. We're going for the black on black on black with white furniture accents. It's going to be super cool, but I'm also setting it up to where behind me is going to be all of my Lego displays and my Spider-Man displays. So it's still going to be super geeky, but that is taking up my time this week. Also, my Lego The Office set arrived in the mail, so I will be building that soon. And all 25,000 Lego pieces that I needed for my Lego skyscrapers have arrived. So I'll be building those soon as well.
Good Lord.
Yes, it is the largest Lego haul I've ever had. 25,000 pieces to build some skyscrapers. It's going to redefine the skyline of my Lego city. It's going to be awesome.
You're totally going to have to post these on our website for people
I think
to see.
once I get my skyscrapers in, then yes, I will start sharing it because that's really going to put it over the edge. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. That's honestly that's the big reason I'm redoing my office because I got some new desks for ultimate building space. So it's gonna be fun. But that's enough about me. Jason, how about you?
I have been playing more Outer Worlds, and the more I'm playing it, the more I'm realizing it is Firefly meets some sort of awesome first-person shooter adventure game. I was reading some articles about it this week, and somebody was saying it's like a cross between Borderlands and Fallout, and I was like, yeah, I guess I could see that. But really, it has a Firefly feel. In fact, as I finished up a very large mission, I realized that the guy that ran the little city that I was in looked like Badger from Firefly. He even had a little bowler hat. And I'm like, this is so cool. And then I'm building my team.
I'm sure there was some inspiration taken from that show. Yeah.
And I'm building my team. So, and you can bring teammates with you.
Wait, is this at all multiplayer? Can you play with other people, or is it all single player?
No, it's perfect. I don't have to play
I was
with
going to say,
anybody.
that makes it the best game.
No,
Yeah.
but you can give your characters instructions by using your directional pad.
Okay. Oh, I love those kind of. Maybe I should play this game.
Right.
I love those kind of
great.
team-based. Yeah.
And it's completely satirical. It is an ultra capitalist government where everything is based on the good of the corporation. I guess no, that's not the term for it. It's some crap. We're talking about government stuff. I'm not gonna even go look it up right now. Anyway, but it's where everything's about the corporation, not about the government.
All right.
So anyway, very cool, very, very satirical and a lot of fun. That's what I've been doing.
Cool. And Josh, what about you?
So we're finally getting into my favorite part of the year. It's October, which means the best holiday is upon us, which is Halloween. So a couple of friends of mine, we decided we were going to do the right thing and do Star Trek for Halloween. So we all ordered the Strange New Worlds uniforms, and they came in, and I was very excited. They're very well made, which is always, a crapshoot when you order stuff online. But they were really, really good. However, they were made in another part of the world where people are not quite as full-bodied as Americans are. And so even though I got the correct size, it was a little tight around my midriff. And so tried to return them and get the correct sizes. They were very, very helpful, very sweet people. They were more than happy to exchange it for me. However, when I took the package to UPS to ship it back to them, they said the address I'd been given was not a real address. They couldn't really figure out what it was supposed to be. And so I thought about it a little bit longer, and I just ordered 2 more. And I'm going to keep the ones that I have for 2 purposes. One, it's a goal shirt. You know, that one piece of article of clothing you buy because it's going to inspire you to get into it later on.
Right. Yep.
And all the fat kids are like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Corey's like, I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Scrawny
These are important items of clothing. I promise you, Corey.
But also, it changed my plan. I'm going to get my entire team at work to dress up and go to work and be Starfleet on Halloween. So if you come into our store, you will be helped exclusively by Starfleet.
I was hoping
people.
that would be nice.
So, and if we all do it, they can't say we can't do it. Because what are you going to do?
Like that should just always be your uniform. Like, I'm going to be able to go to the Best Buy any day of the week, any day of the year, and just see a bunch of Starfleet walking around. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I'm going to use
Best Buy colors, aside from the red, but
yeah,
come on, make it happen.
I'm going to use the 2 slightly smaller ones for a couple of people who are not as stocky,
fluffy
as I am, and they just get a loaner for the day. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
You should get like red shirts for your loss prevention and your checkout clerks.
All that matters is that I'm in Command Gold.
Obviously. Right.
All right, let's get into some programming notes. We have a big episode today, so let's keep this truck moving. So some programming notes. We actually have some interesting things we want to try in this episode. Specifically in our review section, we're going to be introducing a 30-second impressions timer for each episode for each host. So we all get 30 seconds to quickly share our impressions of the episodes we just watched. That will hopefully keep us on track, but also add a little drama to our review section. We'll also be introducing timestamps for each show that we cover on our review section, so that if you are not necessarily watching all 4 shows that we're watching, you can skip ahead to the one that you are watching so you don't get spoilers for you're not watching. So timestamps will be found in the description of this episode and whatever podcast player you're listening to, also in the show notes. Also, on next week's episode, we will be talking about Werewolf by Night, the new Marvel one-shot movie, the black and white vampire movie that's coming out on October 7th. So be looking for us to talk about that in next week's episode. We'll also be continuing our watching of She-Hulk, House of the Dragon, Lord of the Rings of Power, and Star Wars Andor. So be on the lookout for those next week as well. All right, let's get into our nerdy news. All right, we have so much to talk about, but the big headliner for this week is that Ryan Reynolds has announced that Hugh Jackman is coming back to play Wolverine in Deadpool 3. It's happening. We never actually asked for it, but now we all are super looking forward to this. Guys, what are your reactions? Hugh Jackman is back.
Oh, man. You can just feel the geek energy across the United States and across the world just ramping up because of this announcement.
Yeah. And you say we didn't ask for it. We didn't ask for it because we didn't think it was possible.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman retired this character. Like, he made a big deal about retiring this character with Logan.
They made a whole movie about retiring the character. Like,
yeah, like we all just kind of agreed, okay, he's done. We're good. We got a lot of Wolverine.
And it was a hell of a closing for him. It was a great movie. Yeah, and Ryan Reynolds made the announcement the best way Ryan Reynolds could.
The most Ryan Reynolds-y way he could have.
And it was perfect.
and I mentioned to you guys, like, this is one of those things, like, we texted back and forth as soon as it was announced. I'm so glad this was not just a bullet point that was announced at Disney's Expo or Comic-Con or something like that. Like, they actually saved this announcement so Ryan Reynolds could do it in a very Ryan Reynolds way, which is the only way that this could actually be done justice. Like, if it was just announced by Kevin Feige at, like, D23, it would just be, like, a quick thing he says, the crowd reacts to it, but, like, since we're not able to be there to experience that announcement, it'd be kind of just like oh, well, that's cool. But since Ryan Reynolds actually published this video, which I'll be sharing in the show notes, it was the most Ryan Reynolds video ever. It was hilarious. You couldn't really take it seriously at first, But then when Hugh Jackman came on screen, you were just like, oh my God, this is actually happening. And it was fantastic.
He's really there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really there. This Deadpool. So the purpose of the video was to announce that Deadpool 3 is actually still happening. They're still working on it because not much has really been talked about with its production lately. But this video by Ryan Reynolds was announcing that this movie is still coming. It is coming out September 6th, 2024. So you actually gave a date to this as well. So 2 years from now, essentially, this movie's coming out. I think that's actually phase 6 of the MCU. Just 3 months after Fantastic Four is coming out, I believe. So lots of big movies coming out in 2024 for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah. So what are we thinking is going to be the Wolverine story in this movie? Because in their follow-up video that actually Ryan Reynolds posted on his channels as well, he mentioned that they're not going to really be touching the Logan story. So in that story, Logan is still dead. They're saying this movie is going to be taking place not really in a different timeline. He didn't really say that, but he kind of insinuated this is going to be kind of like maybe a multiverse type of thing. But what are we thinking Wolverine's going to be doing here with Deadpool? Do you guys have any thoughts?
I mean, that's impossible to
I can't
guess on. Like it could be anything, and really it doesn't matter because the whole point is going to be having these two characters together. I don't really care what the circumstances are or what the plot is, or because it's also a Deadpool movie. Plot really doesn't matter.
It's true.
Yeah,
so
right.
I will say, do you guys remember how it was originally announced that it was going to be kind of like a buddy cop road trip movie?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's still a thing, but the buddy cop road trip is Deadpool and Wolverine.
See, so like that actually raises some questions. Does this mean we won't be getting Cable back?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it going to be a three-way? Like, these are the questions.
Oh, that would be a fun dynamic.
Yeah. Because it would really be 2-on-1, because the temperaments of Wolverine and Cable would actually probably line up pretty well. They would probably get along in grumpy silence. And then you have Deadpool. So, I don't know. Like, it's I think conjecturing about the movie we're way too early for that. But the excitement of the announcement is still there. Did you guys notice where they filmed the announcement?
I was curious what that was.
Was it in the X-Men home?
So a lot of people assumed it was like Ryan Reynolds' house. I know I was one of them. Looked into it, saw a couple of videos. That is the farmhouse from Logan, where the evil Wolverine comes and kills Professor X.
Oh, interesting.
So again, Ryan
That's
Reynolds,
funny.
being as Ryan Reynolds-y as possible, said, hey, when we film this, I want to use the farmhouse from Logan.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
All right. So yes, Hugh Jackman, we're getting him back. He's just been posting that he's already working out to get his Wolverine body back. So he's already prepping. So I'm assuming production on this movie is going to be starting pretty soon. So it's happening, people. Hugh Jackman is back.
Which that is hilarious to me, because like you could see that he was still yoked when he was sitting on the couch with Ryan. Like, I gotta get back into shape. Said like the most ripped dude ever.
So let's move on to the next story. And this one was predictable, but also kind of shocking. So Google Stadia has announced that they are shutting down their cloud gaming service. So Google has announced it's winding down its Stadia video game streaming service and will shut it down on January 18th of next year. In a new blog post, a search engine company revealed that Stadia, and I quote, hasn't gained the traction with users that we expected. And as a result, the company has made the difficult decision to begin winding down the service. Google will be refunding users who purchased either hardware or games from Google and Stadia.
All right.
So Google was one of the big players to like really kick off this cloud gaming thing. Did you guys ever play any of this cloud stuff?
No, I got a real PC.
No. I had a console, so no.
So the big selling point about this cloud gaming stuff was so it could make PC gaming more accessible to people that couldn't afford gaming PCs. So you could essentially play PC games on any hardware. But this is interesting because it was, the wave of the future for video gaming. Like even Microsoft and PlayStation were teasing the idea of maybe moving away from hardware and moving specifically to cloud gaming and future generations of PlayStation and Xbox. So the fact that Google is already pulling out of it after only a couple of years, that's interesting. What are your takeaways from this?
I think the biggest thing is that Google essentially tried to do this too early. Because I agree with you, the fundamental concept is solid, and again, I see this a lot in my personal business and in my work. We are going digital, like fully digital, and I say this as someone who still fully believes in the disc being the best, highest quality that you could possibly get, both for films, games, whatever. If you can get it on disc, if you can watch it on disc, if you can play it on disc, you're going to have the best experience that way. That being said, we've become a society of I want it now, and I want it everywhere I go. Well, there's only one way to do that, and that's digitally and through some sort of cloud structure. So the idea is solid. I think they came out with it way too early because we still have millions of people come in on release day to buy their favorite games and movies. Like, people still think of content coming on a disc. And I think we're slowly moving away from that because even the newest generations of consoles, and Xbox did it with the last generation, you can get purely digital ones where they expect you to download. But even then, the idea is you're going to download it. So it's a good idea. I think in 15 years, it'll probably come back around and that's how you'll do everything. But the problem was they haven't shifted public thought on how these things work. I would argue the system probably worked pretty well, but people just don't. That's just not what they think of when they think of gaming.
Yeah.
It's either I'm going to have a PC or a console and download it, or I'm going to go get the disc. And I think until people understand the concept, they're just fundamentally not going to get on board. So I hate that they're going under. It's not unexpected. Like I said, I think this will swing back around in like 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, and the technology is not going away. So Google is actually already white labeling this software and they're actually licensing it out to other companies to use. So I think they're moving away from offering it themselves, but other companies might take up the mantle. Jason, do you have any thoughts about this story?
Where they faltered the most with this was their marketing.
Yeah.
The being a gamer, I don't game to the degree that I would like to game, but if I had time and resources, time is of course a resource, but I would play more video games. So I would have checked this out if it piqued my interest more. So I think the marketing was really weak on it. The one thing that I saw this week on top of the Google Stadia announcement is this one guy who played Red Dead online through Stadia. He logged in 6,000 hours for this year. And he's like, almost like, well, now what? And I think you definitely see the downside of having everything on a cloud service is if that cloud service goes away, you lose your purchases, you lose the time invested. And this guy he's really upset, and he's asked Rockstar to find a way to transfer all of his information and his playtime over to another platform.
Yeah. So in that vein, Ubisoft, of all people, has actually announced that they will be helping people transfer their purchases from Stadia over to the Ubisoft Connect store. So when I quote, while Stadia will shut down on January 18th, 2023, we're happy to share that we're currently working to bring the games that you own on Stadia to PC through Ubisoft Connect. We'll share more details regarding specific details later. So that's pretty cool. So Ubisoft and possibly more companies in the future will be helping people that are losing their purchases to transfer them elsewhere.
Proactive customer service. I love it.
But yeah, Google Stadia shutting down. You guys ready to move on to the next story? It's a big one.
Ooh, what's bigger than the Deadpool thing? What we got?
So let's talk about the status of the MCU's Blade movie. And it's not on the level of the Batgirl drama, but some stuff is going on behind the scenes that makes you kind of worry about how this movie's going to end up. So the big bullet points. The director has exited the film. Some sources say he was fired. The script has been completely rewritten multiple times. Mahershala Ali is upset about the status of the movie and how the script is playing out. And the filming has been pushed back to start at least in spring when it was supposed to start next month. So going bullet point by bullet point, the first thing that happened was director Bassam Tariq announced his exit. I think it was a week ago. But now sources are coming out saying he was actually fired from the production of the film. So according to The Hollywood Reporter, the 35-year-old filmmaker has exited the upcoming Blade reboot, a report that was confirmed by Marvel itself when they came out and said, due to continued shifts in our production schedule, Bassam is no longer moving forward as director of Blade, but will remain an executive producer of the film. We appreciate Bassam's talent and all the work he's done getting Blade to where it is. But that ties in to Mahershala Ali being upset and very frustrated with the process of this film. So Jeff Snyder, a big Hollywood insider, tweeted last week saying that I'm told that the current Blade script is roughly 90 pages and features exactly 2 lackluster action sequences. Mahershala Ali is said to be very frustrated with the process. And if you guys think about it, 90 pages, the rule of thumb is that 1 page is roughly 1 minute of film. So if it's a 90-page script, that's only an hour and a half long film. And the fact that there's apparently only 2 action sequences that are kind of lackluster, that doesn't really paint a pretty picture for what a Blade film should be. So before I move on, what are your guys' thoughts about what's happening?
Oh, it's going to be a dumpster fire. There it is.
There. I think one of the biggest problems that I can speculate on, and I don't even know if this is true, but I can see this being a huge issue, is when you introduce a new Marvel character in the MCU, there is now so much canon that you have to be wary of as you write the story, that even if they weren't going to interact with everybody or anybody, you can't have what could be considered a standalone piece anymore, because you have to make sure that whatever happens in the movie doesn't contradict something else in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And I think it's that, but also there's so much pressure on this film specifically because we've had Blade films in the past that there's a huge cult following around. And so if they mess this one up, there's going to be a riot. Like people are going to be upset.
I mean, you also have to remember that on top of introducing a new character, this movie has the responsibility of introducing an entire new facet to the MCU. Mm-hmm. It's responsible for introducing the mythology side of it. And that's a big responsibility. So I definitely understand Mahershala's frustration with such a skimpy script, because that script actually needs to do a lot. It has to introduce him. It has to introduce vampires. It has to introduce all these other things. And you got to think about all the other movies that have had the responsibility of doing that. Like Guardians of the Galaxy was responsible for introducing the cosmic side to the MCU. Yeah, it has to be a hit, or you lose an entire, not just character, but you lose confidence in an entire plot line, an entire thread, an entire section of the MCU. Same thing with when Doctor Strange introduced magic into the MCU. If that movie hadn't worked, it's not just Doctor Strange who gets a bad taste in your mouth. It's the entire concept of magic. Oh man, they're pulling in that crap from Doctor Strange, So if Blade doesn't work well, you don't just lose credibility in Blade, you lose credibility in the entire mythological side of the MCU, which I'm sure they have a lot planned out for. So I'm glad that it sounds like they're trying to make sure they're going to get it right, because usually, like, they're supposed to start filming soon, like really soon. And now they're willing to say, we're going back to script. Like, that's...
So yes, filming was originally scheduled to start in November of this year. That has officially been pushed back to Some sources say January, but now it's looking more like spring 2023. But on the bright side, so a new writer has been brought in, Bo DiMeo, who has most recently written on the Moon Knight series and as a head writer on the upcoming X-Men 97 series. And his writing has impressed Kevin Feige and other studio executives so much that they're giving him the reins to rewrite the Blade script from scratch. So we have someone that people have a lot of faith in to rewrite this script, who obviously has MCU experience already. So that should be a good sign. Also, reports are coming out that there are 3 directors that are currently being eyed for possibly replacing the director that just left the film. The 3 people: Spike Lee, Gina Prince Bythewood. I don't know how. Apologies. She most recently directed The Woman King, starring Viola Davis. And then the third set, it's actually not just one person, 2 people: Bial Falah and Adil El Arbi, most recently directors of Miss Marvel and Bad Boys 3. So 3 sets of directors that obviously have really awesome resumes. Who would you guys think would be a good fit for this movie?
I mean, honestly, and I say this as someone who occasionally finds his work grating, I would enjoy a Spike Lee Blade movie. I think that would work. Giving it to Falah and RB would be cool too, especially since they're still licking their wounds from Batgirl.
Yeah.
So that would be fun.
Wouldn't it be unfortunate if
they did all this
fired?
and then Marvel just says screw it and just cancels Blade? Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
That'd be rough. That'd be rough. Like, at that point, do you just quit? Do you just go home? I want to go back to directing commercials. No one ever cancels the commercials.
Is there anyone aside from these 3 sets of directors that you guys would think would be a good fit?
Okay, stay with me here. Are you ready? Jordan Peele.
Yeah, and I was going to say
that would actually be a really great fit.
I know it would.
Yeah.
Jordan Peele's an amazing storyteller.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to see him direct material that he did not write.
That's true. That is a good point.
Because that's the real test. Because like most creative people, I think, could do a pretty good job if they're in charge of their project 100% from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to see what you can do if I give you the material. So no, I think that would be amazing.
And I know that it's important, to have right now, like with Black Panther, where you had an all-black production team, directing team, writing team. I get the importance of this, especially, with Blade being a black character. However, I kind of would like to see Matt Reeves maybe take this on.
I could see that.
He would certainly lend a feeling of realism to it.
Yeah. I think thinking of the Batman, I think his style of filming would lend itself to Blade.
Yeah.
Yeah. My pick was actually going to be Jordan Peele as well. So Josh stole that from me.
Sorry, guys.
But yeah, Spike Lee would also be good.
Both of us.
Yeah. But yes, so that is Blade. So not looking great right now, but hopefully with the new writer and soon to be new director, something starts happening. It's currently still scheduled for release next November, so only a year from now.
It's going to get pushed.
I don't see that happening.
It's going to get pushed.
I'm curious how that plays into how the timeline works with the MCU, how that would affect other movies. That is the danger of the MCU, is that if one movie gets pushed back, it kind of might create a domino effect. But yeah, so Blade still scheduled for a year out, but that seems unlikely at this point.
Right now, the blade has been dulled, but we anticipate it being sharpened.
Okay.
You gotta keep that.
I love that Jason humor. All right, moving into another Marvel. We have a lot of Marvel things to talk about today. The next one, so Armor Wars, starring Don Cheadle, which was currently a Disney Plus series, is actually being reworked to be a movie for release in theaters. So takeaways from this.
Wait. Is it Armor Wars, Amour Wars, or Amour Wars? Because one is about furniture, another is a love story, and then you have a Marvel movie. So which one is it?
Oh, God.
Mute Jason.
So also, before we even get those thoughts, don't forget that Secret Invasion, which is coming out this spring, and Ironheart, which I also believe is coming out next year sometime. Those two stories actually lead directly into Armor Wars. So what are we taking away from this? So this series was being written as a series, but now it's going to be just a 2.5 hour long movie.
I think this is one of two things, or possibly both. And I think more fundamentally, we all remember when Feige got up there at D23 and unveiled the lineup for the next few years. It was pretty skimpy on movies.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if someone was looking at their lineup and said, good God, we have like 84 Disney Plus shows and 4 movies. like at the end of the day, it is a good idea to push Disney Plus because they want to keep membership up. And that's an easy, people talk all the time about getting your passive income. Well, that is literally passive income for Disney. So I understand the importance, but at the end of the day, your big bucks always come from theatrical releases.
Yeah.
And so I think literally, and this may not even been a Kevin Feige thing, someone just from Disney may have come in and said, where are the movies? So they looked at which one they could restructure easiest, most easily to be a movie. But also, point B, I wonder if maybe they've been listening to some of this criticism of these recent Disney Plus shows where sometimes it feels like you're stretching things out and nothing is happening just so that you had enough material to make a show out of it.
Yeah.
So maybe they looked at Armor Wars and said, man, what if instead of 6 hours of meh content, we cut it down into a really mean 2 hours?
Yeah.
And just made it.
Too.
Yeah. Like it's not everything needs to be a series. Obi-Wan Kenobi, prime example, would have been a better movie than a series.
Mm-hmm.
Because you tried to stretch it into a series, you had to put fluff into it. Armor Wars doesn't need fluff. Keep it trim, keep it mean, put it in the theaters.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly.
I also wonder if it's easier to navigate the rights of a movie versus a series. Like, can you do more with it? Moving it from media platform to media platform versus a series. Does it have a different effect on how you pay your actors, how you pay your writers and stuff like that? I wonder which one is easier to work with in those ways and gives the production company, Marvel or Disney, more control over the product. And I wonder if there's a difference there too. I know that's a boring thought, but I think it's a legitimate one.
From a rights standpoint, I can't see that there's much of a difference because Disney owns these characters outright. They can use them as they see fit. It's the same reason you can go buy a lunchbox with them on it.
Yeah, you say that, but I remember the big, there was a big issue with, and I know it was a streaming issue, but with Scarlett Johansson and Black Widow.
Well, see, now that's different though, because what I was going to say was now pay structure is different.
Right. So,
but the original portion, the first portion of your question though was, does it affect rights and things like? I don't think so. But now how you pay someone, yes. But the big issue with her was that they said they were going to release it one way,
right,
and then they changed it.
Right. No, and I get
released.
that. I get that, and I understand that. But that's kind of the platform for my jumping off of to these other aspects of it, of rights to these aspects. Or, well, I just said aspects twice. Anyway.
No, 3 times.
Yeah, we're talking legalese and stuff like that. So anyway, that's just my thoughts.
Okay. All right, so Armor Wars, still early production, but it's being reworked for theaters. But one more Marvel thing, moving into the next topic. Is Harrison Ford going to be replacing General Ross in Thunderbolts?
It seems to be the case.
There have not been any solid reports on this, so it could just be clickbait. The rumors are picking up that Harrison Ford is being considered and is the favorite to replace William Hurt, who sadly passed away, to play General Ross in the Thunderbolts movie. And my issue with this is that I don't think the character needs to be replaced. Just make Harrison Ford a new character that fills the position of what General Ross was doing. Yes, Ross as a character played a big part in the Thunderbolts. He was Thunderbolt Ross. He was, I think, Red Hulk. I don't think we need to rely so much on that character because William Hurt was that character. I think if you had replaced William Hurt after the Incredible Hulk movie 15 years ago, that would have been fine. It was like a one and done for him. Replace him with someone else. But because he has played that character so many times now, it would be kind of weird to recast him after his death. Kind of like Chadwick Boseman. He played that character so many times that it would be weird to just recast him. So instead, they're actually writing him off, killing him within the universe. So I think you do that same kind of treatment for the General Ross character, write him off, and bring someone else in to kind of fill that same role, but as a different character. In this case, Harrison Ford playing some other general in the army. What are your thoughts?
I see your point, and it's valid. I don't know. To me, General Ross just he wasn't a big character except in the way that what he does kind of moves the plot along. Like, yeah, he's been a consistent person, but in 30-second blips throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So to me, he's not like any of the other characters that were main characters or main supporting heroes or anything like that. I mean, I get the, wanting to treat the actor with reverence that because he's passed, but I also, I don't think it's that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the movies to replace him, because he's just kind of a MacGuffin as far as the MCU goes until the Thunderbolts comes out.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Jason on this one. I do think that if the character is important to the plot, which it's literally called the Thunderbolts, it needs to be recast. For example, Richard Harris dying while he was playing Dumbledore. You can't just write out Dumbledore. Someone has to keep playing him. And so you recast him. But more importantly, I really want to see Harrison Ford Hulk out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think Harrison Ford is, I still want him in the movie. I just don't think it's necessary to make him Ross.
No, but he has to be Ross because I want him to be Red Hulk.
He can still be. So that's my thing, is that these movies are not direct translations from the comics. They go off and do their own things in these movies. So the Ross character does not have to be Red Hulk in these movies. Red Hulk could be anybody. So why are we relying so much on this Ross character if the actor playing him died?
Okay, so Corey, to kind of try to support.
And also, I will say, I don't know why I'm so passionate about this. I really don't.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I like it. I mean,
is that the character doesn't matter, but you are so against using the character.
Well, that's the great thing about the nerd world, is that there doesn't have to be a rhyme or reason to it. People are passionate about what they're passionate about. It's great, and that's why we have these fun discussions.
I just want to see Harrison Ford Hulk out. All I want is a scene. All I want in my whole life, and I didn't realize I wanted this until this article came out. All I want in my life is a scene where Bucky Barnes is being uppity and non-cooperative, and Harrison Ford gets in his face and he gives him the pointed finger, and you just see his eyes turning red and his features starting to. Then he's, and then I didn't know I needed that, but now I need it. So
yep, I'm here for it.
You know what's great though?
Yeah,
you get Harrison Ford in a Marvel movie, and then you can get somebody to reference Han Solo in Star Wars and see what his reaction is.
I never liked Star Wars
because those movies do exist in the universe. Because Peter Parker made the reference in Endgame.
It's canon.
And they're both Marvel. They're both Disney properties now.
Oh my god!
So yes, they can have so much fun.
I always liked Indiana Jones more.
All right, so we're running low on time, so let's go ahead and move along. All I have here is Transformers hitting Magic the Gathering. What does this mean, Jason? Geek out on us.
So Magic the Gathering is one of the more quintessential nerd geek gaming activities. It's a card, it's a card-based game where, you throw a card on one or two or three cards on the table, and that turn you beat the other guy and you take their cards or something like that. And you've got different characters and they all have different strengths and weaknesses and whatever. Well, somehow they're adding Optimus Prime to this fantasy game, where it's been like traditionally something akin to Lord of the Rings, pretty much those types of characters, and Transformers are now joining it. Yeah, so this is very weird, and it's Optimus Prime Hero is like one of the cards I'm looking at, or Optimus Prime Autobot Leader, legendary artifact creature robot, more than meets the eye. You may cast this card converted, at the beginning of each episode or each step. When Optimus Prime dies, return to the battlefield converted under the owner's control. Anyway, just weird stuff, kind of fun. You've got Soundwave, Optimus Prime, Flame War, Goldberg, Slicer, all these cards. It's just a really interesting mix of geek and nerd properties, and it may bring some people to the Magic the Gathering card table.
It looks like this is actually not the only IP to be joining Magic the Gathering. They have also recently announced Warhammer 40K expansions, Doctor Who, The Walking Dead. So a bunch of cool stuff is coming to Magic the Gathering. I did not hear about any of this until just now. So that's pretty cool.
Sounds like Magic the Gathering is not doing too good.
Yeah, after reaching out to all these properties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or it's doing super good. It's one of the two.
Yeah.
Right. We will bring all the nerd world together at the gathering. We shall gather them.
At
the table.
All right, let's get into our reviews, discussion, speculation, and spoiler segment for She-Hulk Episode 7, House of the Dragon Episode 6, Star Wars Andor Episode 4, and Lord of the Rings of Power Episode 6. So we're trying something new on this episode, where each of us is going to get 30 seconds to share our initial thoughts on all of these episodes. We might hate this. We might love this. Who knows? We're going to give it a shot this episode. And once all three of us gives our thoughts on the episode, we'll dive into the story and discussion of each show. All right, let's start with She-Hulk. Where's my thing? There we go. All right, so who wants to do their 30 seconds first?
Josh gets first.
Oh, okay.
30 seconds on episode 7 of She-Hulk. Go.
Okay, so this was actually the first episode that I found even moderately interesting. And probably since like the first episode of the show. Actually getting time to slow down and actually have Jen be a major character in her own show for a little bit. Because as much as they make the joke about how we're not going to have a cameo of the week and she's, this is her show, you actually only get about 10 minutes of Jen per episode. So we actually got to see Jen.
Good job, Josh.
Nailed it.
All right, Jason, what about you?
I found this episode to be really lackluster, and the only part that I really enjoyed was the last final scenes from the episode. I'm kind of getting a little disheartened with the series, and I've kind of starting to realize that I'm not the target audience for it. So, which is fine. It's not horrible, but I don't think it's my cup of tea, so to speak.
You actually had time to spare. Good job. So, my thoughts. And I actually echo Josh's thoughts more than Jason's. I liked that we didn't really have a B story, so the story was really focusing in on Jen, and it was more emotional because there were several scenes where we got to feel what she was feeling, and she's been struggling with who she is. There were no really big action scenes, so it really was just more character focused. So I thought we got some good development there, and yet again some more teases, which I've been enjoying, but I'm hoping we can build up to something pretty soon. We did it! 30 seconds. All right, let's dive into some story stuff.
Okay.
So as Josh mentioned, there was no B story. So the story really was just Jen being invited by the parole officer for Abomination. He was scared about actually going to visit Abomination alone because he was alerted that Abomination's tracking device was malfunctioning, and he didn't have a team to go with him. So he invited Jennifer / She-Hulk to go with him as his backup. They got there. It was his home arrest was on this ranch, which is giving you very like Zen guru vibes. And he has embraced his role as a teacher and therapist / psychiatrist / who knows what else, to a bunch of wayward souls, so to speak. We'll get to those in a second.
Cult leader.
Okay, yeah, cult leader. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So, Jason, you mentioned that Blonsky / Abomination is giving you some vibes that are reminiscent of some other character. You want to delve into that a little bit?
Yeah. Every time that I've seen Emil Blonsky on screen, his presentation reminds me of Sir Trevor, who was he was in Shang-Chi, and of course we were introduced to him in Iron Man 2?
3.
Iron Man 3 as the Mandarin, and he wasn't really the Mandarin, he was just an actor playing the Mandarin, who was an actor who was cast to play that role. Anyway, so I can't help when I watch his character to think of Ben Kingsley when seeing him. So there's that. It kind of takes away from it every scene.
Do you feel like his character is not genuine?
I think it is a caricature. I don't think it is like a real developed character. I think it's kind of like a stereotype. It's kind of it's not, and maybe that's the type of show that it is, but it doesn't seem like a serious attempt to create his own character by Tim Roth.
Yeah, I mean it does it's kind of distracting for me when he is on screen, because he is kind of just a for laughs character, which is not how we were originally introduced to him in The Incredible Hulk. He was supposed to be this menacing guy. So to me, it kind of comes across as one of those de-evolution of the character, kind of like we're experiencing regression. Thank you.
Yeah,
that we're kind of experiencing with Thor and Hulk. It kind of seems like the same thing with Emil Blonsky, is that when we originally saw him, he was Abomination, and now he's just this guru guy that's kind of just, I don't know, lame. But
so let me just say that before I actually watched the episode, I only watched it last night. I was getting ready to come onto the show and just really just kind of lean into the whole, it's become just this pointless exercise of blah, 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 just a bunch of negative things. And let me say that I did enjoy last night's episode. It was good. It was fun. It was entertaining. I think it addressed a lot of the issues that I've been having with the show. The biggest one being that, again, for all the talk they have about this being Jen's show, you don't actually see that much Jen. Yeah. So that was good. It was a whole episode where she was in basically every scene. That's a good thing. The episode did also reinforce, I think, some of the weakest points. I'm not sure that making this into a 30-minute sitcom was the best idea. And I think that it's hindered the show in a lot of ways. And I think it is being used as a crutch for weak writing. Well, no, it's supposed to be lighthearted. It's a sitcom. Okay, well, there's lots of sitcoms out there that have really, really, really good writing. You can't necessarily say the same thing about She-Hulk, but if you try to, the argument is, well, it's a sitcom.
Yeah.
And so I think every episode would have benefited from being in the 45-minute to an hour range so that you could actually have actual development. And I think that's one of the saving graces of this episode, is you did actually get a little bit of character development. And that's the only redeeming thing about this episode and about this show in general. And so if we could get more episodes.
Not the only thing. It was also funny. Like, it was actually a really funny episode.
Okay, but if everything is a joke, then nothing's funny. Like, it's kind of like you said, comparing it to Thor. If you turn all of Thor into a joke, it's no longer funny. It's just two-dimensional. So like I said, like I want to reiterate, I think this is one of the better episodes we've had so far, and I had a good time watching it. But there are some issues that are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore.
I think the strongest thing about this episode is that it's really emphasizing what this show is actually about. And it's Jen's struggle And it's kind of the opposite of the superhero thing, but I've mentioned this before, but the recurring theme of her struggling with dating and struggling with her embracing the fact that she has two versions of herself. I think that was really put on display in this episode because she really shared her feelings with her struggles with dating, with the sharing circle that she had with these B-list characters. And it was a heartfelt moment. And we really got to, especially if you're someone that actually has struggled with dating, it was really relatable. I think that's the key right there, is that it was relatable to so many people that struggle with being ghosted on dating and having to go on these dates that just don't go anywhere. So I think this episode really brought home what this show was really about, and it's her struggling to be a normal person that has superpowers that she doesn't want. And so that kind of leads into my next point, and this actually ties into the story, is that the person that she was dating recently, Josh Miller, that she met on the previous episode, the wedding episode, seemed like a nice guy. But spoilers in this episode is that apparently he's not a nice guy. He's actually one of those people that's after her for her blood. So, any takeaways from that, guys?
It was an interesting development to see right there at the end, that little stinger. It lost all weight when he communicated his evil message with emojis.
Yeah. I know.
But no, I mean, like, that's a real thing. Like, you get what I'm saying, though? That leads into the problems that it's a show that wants you to take it not seriously, but it wants you to, I mean, yeah, I can't, only because I can't think of a better phrase. It wants to be taken seriously as a comedy, but sometimes its comedy makes it really hard to take it seriously. Everyone knows that scene from Fresh Prince where Will breaks down crying, saying, "Why doesn't my dad want me?" Right? We know that scene, right? It's one of the first things that made you cry when you were growing up. So, like, what if he'd cracked a fart joke in the middle of it? You get what I'm saying? The most poignant parts of sitcoms are when they get serious. Yeah. But you don't put a joke in the middle of the serious part or it just becomes a farce.
So like you, Corey, I empathized with Jen throughout the episode as she's waiting for the text for that phone call. I think we've all been there where, it's like you're on a weekend and you stop hearing from the one person that you think it's going well with, and you kind of get consumed with that. And it happens, because we're human, and we so I think that was a very relatable part. And I felt for her. I've done that thing where, like, I've fallen asleep with my phone in my hand, hoping, that she texts back at, but whatever, it happens. So I got that, but at the same time, I was every time I watch this show, I remember a conversation I had with a really, really good friend of mine, and we were talking about how in Injustice 2, all you can play as each character, and each character, as you go through the storyline and you beat the big baddie, which I think is Brainiac. You get kind of this little blurb of what happens after, like Superman does this or Batman, does this with all the powers and whatever. And when we play as Catwoman, Catwoman finally she beats Brainiac. She's able to do the things that she wants. She's finally able to marry Batman Bruce Wayne, and that was like the epitome of the game for her. But it didn't work out because she enjoyed being the Bat and the Cat better, and then they got divorced. And I was like, yeah, so you get to win as Catwoman. And my friend said, who's female, she said, but did you notice it's all about the relationship because it's a female character? And I said, that's a really good point, because none of the other male characters had that ending where they got with whomever they were in love with, nor was it even a part of their story, like a love interest. And so here we are again with a very powerful superhero who's female, and the main issue of each episode is our relationship issues, like with men.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and here we've got an opportunity to not box a woman character into a box, and they've done it. And I don't know to what end. And so every time I watch an episode, I think of that conversation.
Yeah.
And it hurts the episode for me because I can't stop thinking about that.
What's the writing rule? It was
The Bechdel test.
Yeah, the Bechdel test. This entire show fails the Bechdel test.
What's that?
So the idea was that to illustrate true sexual equality, the Bechdel test says that you have to have two female characters who have a conversation that is not about men.
And that also don't denigrate each other.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, so like, I'm glad Jason said this because I wanted to say this exact same thing. Like you touted this show about being the first big superhero female show, and then you made it about dating. Like that's your, come on now. Like we can do better than this.
Yeah. I mean, here she is. She's like, and so she's got like this, she's reached the pinnacle of being a lawyer, and still she's not reached fulfillment according to the series because she doesn't have a good dating life. So anyway, it's just one of the things that I think about every time I watch this episode or these episodes.
All right, so that's really good recaps of how you're feeling about this show. So let's get right into scores.
Okay.
So I'm still sitting at a 4 because yes, there is lazy writing at times, but I'm still enjoying it. I'm still laughing out loud, and I'm liking the idea of what it's leading up to. I just hope it gets there soon. So I'm sitting at a 4 out of 5. What about Jason?
2.75.
And Josh?
I'm going to leave mine at a 3, which is where I think I was last time.
Yes. So that interesting spread that we have going here. So all the way down at 2.75 and all the way up to a 4 is putting us at a 3.25 across the board after, 7 episodes of She-Hulk? 6 episodes? 7 episodes?
Oh, it feels like somewhere between 2 and 100.
Yes. So that is She-Hulk episode 7, The Retreat. Not looking too good, but I'm still enjoying it. So let's move into House of the Dragon episode 6, The Princess and the Queen. So 30 seconds on the clock.
So we finally got the big time jump. We've all known this was coming for a little while, which is weird because like at first they acted like they weren't going to do it, and then it got out that they're doing it, and then they started using it. Anyway, so time jump like 10, 12 years. Everybody's got kids now, which is interesting because that changes the dynamic in more ways than you might have thought. But also we're finally getting into the meat of the plot. And of all the people, it's actually the queen who's probably going to kick off this Game of Thrones. And so I'm for it. I miss some of the old actors, but I think we're getting into it.
There were some parts of this episode that I thought were really good, but overall, I'm starting to kind of feel a general malaise, kind of a lackluster feeling towards the series, and it's kind of felt like a chore to watch it this week. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really not feeling great things about this series so much right now.
All right, and my thoughts mostly mirror Josh's, so I'm not going to reiterate what he just said, but my takeaways aside from that is that as someone that struggles with seeing blood and things, I was struggling to watch that first scene where she was having just given birth, walking across the castle, dripping blood and stuff, and towards the end where the other person is giving birth. I was struggling. So this was actually kind of a hard episode for me to watch as far as queasiness goes, but I enjoyed the story. All right. So let's go through it. So as Josh said, there was a huge time jump. We got a whole new set of actresses playing the princess, Rhaenyra, and the queen.
Damon's new queen is fire.
Oh my gosh.
He thought of that joke like 30 minutes ago, and he's just been waiting.
No. I'm telling you, it was improv. It was just now.
Okay.
Just telling you.
So yes, the queen. I think she was really the big takeaway from this episode for me is that she's really stepping into that role as the person that's stirring the pot as far as drama goes. She has discovered that Rhaenyra is sleeping with someone and fathering children with someone that's not her husband, which is a big no-no. And she's collaborating with Laris, I don't know, to do something. So she is, I think it's leading to her being the person that really gets things going as far as
the Game of Thrones.
The Game of Thrones, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's, I think we were all kind of waiting with the assumption of the king is going to die and it was just going to naturally kick off this competition for the throne. Especially the way they've been building up his illness, which, spoiler alert, the dude is still here.
He literally lost an arm. His arm is gone.
Yeah, his arm is gone. He lost so much of that luscious Targaryen hair. But he's still here. He's still kicking. And I think,
he might not be kicking. He I don't know if he can move his legs that bad.
We don't even know if he has both legs still. But yeah, it's definitely, and I get where she's coming from. The queen, like, I get it. It's always, and this is a historically proven fact. Anytime that there's been a possible contested throne in human history, that the easiest way to make sure that no one contests your claim is to make sure there's no one else to have a claim. Mm-hmm. So I get that she fears for her children's lives. I understand that. At the same time, if she would just chill, I think everything would have been fine. Because Rhaenyra is not a particularly vengeful person. And so I think the queen really is going to be the actual catalyst for all this, because she was already grabbing her oldest son's head, who, by the way, that's David Tennant's son, if you didn't know that.
Ty Tennant. Yeah.
Yeah. And telling him, like, they're going to try to kill you. You have to be ready, blah, 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 blah. And so if she would just chill and just relax, like, everything would be fine. But no.
Yes. So also with the queen, she has been not gossiping, but talking with Sir Christian Cole, who is somehow still around.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he just straight up murdered someone in everyone's company.
Well, we were all in there.
So we're assuming that the queen kept him from getting in any major trouble. Because we saw at the end of the last episode where he was about to kill himself and she stopped him. So it seems like they became buddy after that. It seems like Sir Christian Cole is no longer the bodyguard of Rhaenyra. It seems like he's more bodyguarding the queen.
Well, yeah, he got turned down. He got rejected. And he did it the right way. He removed himself from the situation.
But he's sounding kind of vengeful too. The way he was talking with the queen, it sounds like and also just the way he was acting out on the training field with the kids. And
the strong boys. He
was stirring the pot with Rhaenyra's new side piece. So he's definitely, all these years later, still holding a grudge. And so Sir Christian Cole was egging him on, and Christian Cole got his little taste of his own medicine. He got his face beat in. So I thought that was nice poetic justice there.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a hamburger face, but
yeah. You know what? How much we liked him. Remember that from the first couple episodes, and now he's just a piece of trash.
That's what I'm saying. The internet turned on him as soon as he.
I'm sorry. Once you become a scumbucket, I think that's a legitimate response.
Yeah. No, I do remember liking him, but not so much anymore.
I think that was a reaction to the situation that he was placed in. That is not his fault.
All right, so let's for the sake of time, let's talk about the one more big thing. Daemon over there in his own little world with his new wife and his new kids.
A Valerian.
And we see that she's trying to give birth, but
it's
echoing
like
back to what we saw.
Kid. Yeah.
Yeah, for at least the third that I noticed. But echoing back to what we saw in the first episode, the OG queen struggling to give birth, and she ended up dying during childbirth. Same thing is happening here with Daemon's wife. They find out that she's likely not going to make it through childbirth. They would have to give a C-section to at least try to save the child. And first of all, the doctor, epic beard.
Yeah, good beard.
Did you guys notice that? Yeah, epic beard. And then the big takeaway is that I guess she understood that she was going to die during childbirth. So she just went up to her dragon and was like, "Hey, dragon,
Flame on.
flame." Yeah, so I was not sure what she was doing when she first walked out there. I thought she was just like wanting to say goodbye to her dragon. And then she lit a flame.
It took a turn.
Yeah, as soon as she walked towards her dragon, I knew that she was going to ask for a barbecue.
A baby
like as soon as I was like, oh, she's gonna,
baby Q.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, baby. Oh, nice. Yeah, no, but serious. Yeah, I did. I kind of saw that happening when she started walking up to the dragon, and I'm like, oh, she's
like I think when that happened, I literally yelled, even though I was watching by myself. I think I literally yelled, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
Like, I did not see it coming at all. So that was great filmmaking right there.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, she went out like a boss. She went out on her terms. I get it. Sucks that she took the baby with her. But
well, it was sounding like the baby likelihood of it surviving was also not great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Damon witnessed this, and we saw that he had a conversation with his kids afterwards. We don't know what he said. It was one of those like we see that they're talking, but we don't actually hear them.
yeah,
so Damon is not doing so hot now. What comes next for him, do we think?
he has to go back to his only true love, the throne.
Ooh.
You know,
Okay.
I try not to catch spoilers, but I saw an article where somebody was wondering after this episode if he ends up being the main baddie in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I brought this theory up like 3 episodes ago.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's okay.
So
I can
what
tell
was
you
it? The
don't
White
listen to what I
White
say.
Walker? What the heck is he called?
Yeah, the king, the Night King.
The Night King. Yeah. And so there's speculation. Yeah. So good job, Josh. I forgot about that. But yeah, I saw that this week too.
Interesting. All right, so that wraps up our discussion on episode 6 of House of the Dragon. So how are we feeling scores wise? We're currently sitting across the board. Josh out of 5, Jason out of 4, and I am also out of 5.
I'm gonna leave mine at 5 dragon barbecues out of 5.
And Jason?
I'm gonna knock mine down to a 3.75.
Jason's becoming a
just-
grumpy old man who hates everything.
As I said, I'm not thrilled with the stuff that we're watching right now.
I think maybe Jason is experiencing content overload.
Possibly.
Maybe you're watching too many things at once.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Because I'm staying out of 5. I still think it's awesome. So we're at a 4.58 after 6 episodes of House of the Dragon. Let's move on to Star Wars Andor. We are now on episode 4. 30 seconds.
Things are happening. Like that was like my actual thought while I was watching the show. Those first 2 episodes left just a sour taste in my mouth for wasting so much time. But there was a lot of movement, there was a lot of locations, a lot of new characters, finally getting the Empire mixed in a little bit, like the proper Empire, not just the Corpo stuff. And we're gearing up for the heist. So a lot of things, and I enjoyed it.
Nice. And Jason? Ready, go.
I'm probably gonna just jump on to what Josh was saying. Pretty much the same thing. I like that we are getting a little more expansion on the locales. We're getting to see the inner workings of the Empire. Starting to see the inner workings of the rebellion. How the elites who are living in the Empire but are part of the rebellion are walking the line. So that's kind of interesting too. So I like seeing that. And
I'm going to echo exactly what both of you are saying, but also one other big thing for me is Daddy Skarsgård was the show stealer in this episode. We got to see him being the grumpy rebellion guy, but also the undercover, the salesperson that was a completely different persona. So he killed it this entire episode. That was my big takeaway. Thank you, Daddy Skarsgård. So let's get into it. So, as you guys are mentioning, we've got new locations. We're seeing Coruscant and a few other places. But the big story piece was that Luthen, Daddy Skarsgård, he was actually not there to buy the part that Cassian was selling. He was actually there just to recruit Cassian for this heist that we're setting up. I'm so excited that this is apparently going to be a heist show. I love heist storylines.
Corey's so basic.
I am. But yeah, I'm telling you, man, that's why I like Ant-Man. They're just heist movies. And he's telling Cassian that he's being put into this rebellion group that he is a part of. But he has to go undercover because he did not actually clear that he was recruiting someone else to join this group. And so he was going under the alter ego known as Klim, which, if you guys remember, was a callback to the dad figure that he had from when he was rescued as a kid. Cassian / Klim meets up with the rebellion leader, and he finds out that they're actually not going to be stealing the payroll, which is what Luthen told him of this imperial group. They're actually going to be stealing from the armory, which was a surprise to Cassian. So what are some takeaways so far from this story that we're leading up to this heist?
I just, there's a lot, there's a lot that's happened, but it's almost like there's not a lot to say. I don't know. It's like you could see that, the upper echelons of the rebellion have no problem moving the lower, frontline people around like little pawns and keeping information from each other. And it's just as covert as the Empire Intelligence Directorate that we saw. It was kind of like they were comparing the two, and even though they look completely different, it's really the same thing. It's like one hand's doing one thing, one hand's doing the other, and nobody's, and the point is not for those two hands not to know what the others are doing. So
yeah, I was gonna say my biggest takeaway is that as far as the world building goes, they really narrowed down that the rebellion is not a unified front yet. It's a bunch of independently operating little groups, to the point that Andor actually got into conflict with one group because they both didn't even realize that they were fighting each other. They thought they were going against someone. So like it's clearly there's no big brain behind it. And again, and like you said, moving pieces around like pawns, like Skarsgård, when he was handing Klim off to his new team, even straight up told them he's expendable if he needs to be.
Yeah.
Like this is not, there's no greater loyalty here. He sees them as tools. And I mean, that's probably the nature of war is you can't think of them as people or nothing would ever get done. But
well, yeah, and he told Andor, he's like, you don't tell her who you actually are, and then he tells her, you don't tell the team where he's actually from.
Yeah, there's a lot of
there's a lot of deception
what you need to know.
Yeah.
Like there's
right, exactly.
And it's now I do think we introduced a big character that's got some established lore. Mon Mothma was introduced.
Yes,
she is a large
like
presence.
A big deal. I just didn't. Why is she a big deal? I don't get it.
As far back as the original Star Wars.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I was kind of surprised that you didn't know that. But
yes, this is the same actress that was playing her. I believe in last we saw her episode 3. Is that
she
correct?
was also in Rogue One, she was in Rogue One, wasn't she?
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
don't quote us on that, but yes, we have seen this actress playing this character before.
I'm fairly certain she was in Rogue One too. But the most important thing is that she's a very important figure in the rebellion as far back as the original Star Wars. So
yeah.
So the fact that she shows up and is talking to Stellan Skarsgård, that's not a small thing. I think the show is going to take place at the creation of a unified rebellion.
Yeah. So Luthen puts on his alter ego to meet with Mon Mothma at that antiquities shop, and to get her away from her driver, so they can have a private conversation. He invites her into the back room to show her something that he just got in. And as soon as they got to the back room, they have that conversation about the rebellion. And Mon Mothma mentions that she wants to bring someone into the circle, the rebellion circle. She doesn't mention who, though. Who do we think she wants to bring in? Because my bet is on Leia.
You calling Leia?
I'm calling Leia.
This is 5 years before the Battle of Yavin?
So maybe it's actually Bail.
Either or.
Yeah, I could see that.
Get old Jimmy Smits back in.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it. Strike me down.
So yes, and towards the end of the episode, we're seeing that I love when shows actually have the little miniature model to actually to demonstrate what the plan actually is, so you can actually kind of visualize it before it happens.
I know, and little mousy guy was so proud of it.
Yeah, I vibe with him so hard.
Dude's gonna die. Calling it.
Oh,
the
no.
youngins. Yeah,
100%.
he's totally
He's
They're
not
building
be in
him
part
up
two.
to be a yeah.
He's
yeah,
not
they're-
gonna be in
yeah,
part two.
Nope. He's gonna die in the in the little
Calling
heist.
it.
hmm
I agree with you.
As we're talking about this, I'm actually realizing something that Josh said last episode is that, Andor, for the first 3 episodes especially, he was not the most interesting character. And I think that still holds true here. And it's kind of weird because it is a show about him, but I'm more interested about what Luthen, Stellan Skarsgård, is doing and what Mon Mothma is doing. Like, it seems kind of weird to have your headlining character, the title character, not be the guy that you really care about.
It's funny that you say that. When you said that, and it made me think of the title, which is Andor, and it made me think of the title of Droids, which was kind of an offshoot series where everything was from the perspective of C-3PO and R2-D2, which is kind of how Star Wars opens up.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not the main characters, but they're the ones that bring the audience along for the ride. And I'm wondering if that's what's happening here. It's not really about Andor. It wasn't really about the droids, even though it was droids. He's bringing the audience along for the ride. And I wonder if he's not supposed to be like the main character right now.
He's just the vehicle
But he's the one
for our
that's
viewing.
right for
Yeah.
us. So I wonder if that's what's going on.
So why call it Star Wars Andor? Why just call it Star
Well, I mean,
Wars?
I'm wondering if it's kind of like a throwback to how they did Star Wars Droids,
Hmm.
which was a series. I'm just wondering if it's like intentionally done that way.
I mean, if we're looking for like a straightforward out of universe reason why it's him, I think they had an idea where they wanted to tell this story, but they knew they needed a recognizable tie-in.
Yeah.
So they got Diego
Yeah.
Luna because he's not doing anything else
Mhm.
ever.
So listening to you guys talk today, I think that's how I jumped to that thought.
Yeah. I do not disagree with your line of thing. I think they had, like I said, an overall idea. They wanted to tell a story about the foundation of the rebellion, but they knew they had to put it on one character. So it's not really about the character, but that is the way we're going to see it. So yes, I agree
Star
with your
Wars Luthen. That doesn't work. All right, let's get into scores. Currently, Josh, after the first 3 episodes, you were at a 2. Jason was at a 2.75, and I was at a 3. So after 4 episodes now, how are we feeling?
I'm going to bump it up to a 3. My gut actually kind of wanted to bump it up to a 4, but reminding myself that we have to take into account the entire season, this episode was a 4. The season, I mean, it's hard to overlook that if you had not put out the first 3 episodes, I would not have gotten to episode 4. I would have quit.
Yeah.
So on that basis, I'm going to say 3. There's still time. It could end up with a really great score. And it'd just be one of those you have to tell your friends, you got to get through the first couple episodes. All right. The Office has the same problem. First few episodes of The Office was terrible. It was not good. You had to get through that first 12 episodes. So yeah, 3 heist models out of 3.
Out of 5.
Or out of 5. Yeah. So I'm changing the rubric. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jason.
I'm going to leave it at my current score.
All right. I'm going to stay at my current score as well, a 3, because when I'm thinking about the show in retrospect, and I think about the things that I have enjoyed, it's all of the scenes with Stellan Skarsgård. Anything outside of that, I'm just like, okay, it's fine. So,
I mean, can I be honest? Like, let's be real. Stellan Skarsgård is a exponentially better actor than Diego Luna.
Yeah.
Like, he has a sense of gravitas that Diego Luna will never have.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel bad for Diego Luna because his guest star is dramatically better than he is.
Yeah. Like that scene where he had to like transform into
Yeah, and he was practicing it to himself. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was a fantastic scene. Like, it was a pretty quick thing. Like he started like by putting the hot towel over his face, and like he was putting on his jewelry and like the wig and everything. Mm-hmm. Then he had to like actually get into character. That was fantastic.
That was a great example of show don't tell.
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't say a word. Yep.
Right.
And just the scene where he was playing that essentially other character in the antiquities shop.
Thank you.
He was a joy.
Yeah.
Like that was awesome. So yeah, if it wasn't for him, I'd probably dump this down even a little bit more because everything else is kind of a drag. So across the board, we're sitting at a 2.92 after 4 episodes. All right, let's get into our last show for this episode, Lord of the Rings of Power, episode 6. This episode was everything I have been wanting and looking forward to. Things are heating up. There were epic battles and swords and horses and volcanoes, which I was not even expecting, but I'm so glad it was there. There were just orcs and things dying left and right. This was the episode for me. I'm so glad we finally got there. It happened a little bit sooner than I was expecting, but we're there, so yeah, loved it.
Well, yeah, and no hardfoots for you. So,
oh my god, and no hardfoots.
Right.
Yeah, so things were heating up. We saw that the orcs were invading the Southland town where these humans were hiding. Arendor is there. At first, we saw him kind of single-handedly take on this entire army by shooting his arrow and taking down this entire tower that fell on them. So that was epic. Later in the episode, we saw the orcs invade this town, and the Numenor reinforcements with Galadriel show up, and they assist Arendor and these humans with fighting off the orcs. It was just a non-stop battle scene, essentially, this entire episode. I loved it. So what were your like takeaways for the story for this episode?
So I think we just saw the creation of Mount Doom. So Mount Doom is the mountain that they're trying to get to in Lord of the Rings trilogy the whole time, where Frodo has to drop the ring in the volcano. I believe that's the volcano that we just created, that the orcs just created. It was, for me, it was kind of like a really lackluster episode until the Numenor showed up.
Oh, okay.
On scene. Like, it was like I kind of knew that that the first battle between the orcs and the humans was a feint, and that the real battle was coming up. Like, I kind of picked up on that.
Okay, so that was okay. I'm glad you said that because I was confused about that. How the orcs were not actually orcs in that first wave of orcs that actually showed up.
So if you remember the first wave of humans that joined the orcs that left, like the town divided, half went with that old guy and said, "No, we're gonna go swear fealty to this one guy."
Oh.
Those were who they fought.
Okay,
those humans. Yeah. So, watching. Galadriel was awesome to watch in battle.
Yes.
The riding that she did, the battle riding.
Yeah, the little like trick she does to avoid the arrows, and like she rides the side of her horse to dodge them. That was epic. That was awesome.
And when she spoke the words to get her horse to go to kick in the afterburners, we have seen like fast horses like in Lord of the Rings before. Shadowfax was one of them where he was like tremendously fast, but it was done through just effects where you just like, okay, this horse is fast. They actually made this horse seem to go magically faster in real time when she was chasing down Adar to get the hilt.
Yeah.
And I was impressed by that. I'm like, oh, horse kicked on his afterburners, and that looked real. Cool. Yeah. I'll take it. So I guess that leads into my next thought, which is still the graphics in this series are just phenomenal. Oh, and Arendir is like throwing like Krav Maga or whatever fighting styles into fighting, and I'm like, okay, so he's got some martial arts going. He's an archery badass. Cool.
Yeah,
okay.
like we didn't just get sword fighting. Like there was actually like
No.
hand-to-hand combat in this episode, especially with Arendor. And that was a fun fight scene. He was fighting an orc that was twice his size.
Right. And he was going to lose. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So that was definitely fun to watch.
Yeah. Good episode. I think things are going to get like really good and really, really serious now. Based off of the events.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about the big story development, the revelation that Adar, the big bad guy,
right,
was the first orc, the OG orc.
Yeah, fantasy stories and fantasy properties, they're going to cross paths from time to time because it's just the nature of the beast, and it's been around for so long. Tolkien was writing these in the 50s and 60s, right?
Mm-hmm. So,
there is a book series that I really enjoy, written by Terry Brooks. It's all based in this it's all based around a family name called of Shannara. And in one of the trilogies, the bad guys were called Shadowin, which were basically the people that we're all fighting against. And it was the same thing. They were elves or druids who had messed with magic and converted the elves into the bad guys. It's messing with magic and dark powers that turns the good guys bad. So that was what I thought about. That was the connection I made when watching this episode.
Yeah. I think the last big story thing is that Halbrand, he is embracing his heir to the throne, essentially. Mm-hmm. But also, doesn't Halbrand look suspiciously similar to Viggo Mortensen?
He does.
Is that significant?
Well, I think Viggo's Aragorn is supposed to be a descendant of Isildur, not Halbrand.
So Halbrand was brand new to this show. He was a brand new character.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not sure what that means yet. I'm not familiar enough with the lore of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I will say that I did notice that he and Galadriel were acknowledging that they kind of had a moment while they were fighting, that they felt strongly about each other. She's like, I felt something, and she's like, I felt that too, and then they got walked upon, and so nothing really continued after that. So I think there's gonna be some sort of progression in that relationship as well with Halbrand.
Yeah. And then, as you were saying, the volcano erupted at the end. The last shot was actually the lava overtaking Galadriel. And we know she doesn't die, but what happens there? How does she escape from lava? Like
I don't know. I don't know.
Like it was an epic shot.
It was epic. I don't know what superpowers the elves have. Because I know they can be killed just like anybody else. They just, if they're not killed, they get to live forever. So I don't know. But when that whole scene happened, when he put the sword in the hill in the keystone, turned it, and now we finally saw why they were building all the tunnels, is so that the water could flow into the mountain and activate the volcano. And I'm like, okay, and now they've created Mount Doom. I'm like, interesting. All right, I'll take it.
I should probably go back and watch The Lord of the Rings so I can make more contextual sense about everything.
Yeah, and especially if you're enjoying this, this kind of leads up to the beginning of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And so if you're enjoying this, I recommend that you take another stab at it.
All right. Well, listeners, if you haven't noticed, Josh is not here for this episode.
Right.
He has not actually watched this one, so that's a little disappointing.
Not for the episode, for this segment.
Yes. So, which kind of sucks because I think this is the episode he's also been waiting for. So hopefully we get him back in on next week's episode. But after 6 episodes, Jason, how are you feeling? You are currently sitting at a 4.5.
I'll keep it at 4.5 because at the end I was still into it. So yeah, 4.5.
I'm going back up to a 5, baby. This episode was everything I was asking for. Plus, it did not have the hard foots. It was literally the perfect episode. So without Josh's new score, we're going to leave him out of 4. So we're at a 4.5 across the board. Still solid. Still really solid.
You know what we didn't tell people to do at the beginning of this episode?
What is that, Jason?
We didn't tell them to share.
How could we forget such a thing?
It's so important, isn't it?
It is so extremely important. People, the only way this podcast can grow is if you share us with your friends and your family and your co-workers. Word of mouth is the best marketing that we could have for this podcast. Your efforts are so highly valued.
Right.
We can only do so much on our own. Please help us.
There's only 3 of us.
There's only 3 of us.
There's only 3. We need another one. We need more. You could be that other one. You could spread the word. Save the masses.
Save the masses. Yes, this podcast will save lives.
Right.
We have not picked up
it
on
will
that.
save lives. Right. In what way? Next episode, we'll let you know.
Oh, well, or that's maybe putting a lot of pressure on the next episode.
Well, you know, what I'm thinking is like next episode, we could say next episode every time. So it's always
kind of like we did with that Peak Geek Part 3 debate.
Yeah, exactly. What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We're doing everything exactly like we planned. Eat, Sleep, Nerd is fluid.
Yes, fluid. But you love us for that, don't you, people?
Right, and entertaining. Right.
All right, as a reminder, on next week's episode, we have an even bigger plate of things to discuss. I don't know how we're going to do it. This is also Josh's kid week, so it might be a dumpster fire all by itself. But we are planning to talk about the new Werewolf by Night special for the MCU that comes out on October 7th. We will also continue our discussions on She-Hulk with Episode 8, House of the Dragon Episode 7, Lord of the Rings of Power Episode 7, and Star Wars Andor Episode 5. I think we have to go back to that whole discussion about us taking turns of what we watch, because that's a lot. That is so much, Jason. What were we thinking when we signed on this?
Well, I think we were thinking that we like watching stuff and talking about it.
Who in Hollywood decided to release all these shows at the same time?
You know, it's an oversaturated market at this time, Corey, and I think that may be why I'm just kind of like, whatever, right now.
Because looking ahead, like November and December, there are no TV shows coming out. So like we could have staggered this a little bit, people. Like, we have been talking long enough. This is going to be a heck of an episode. We'll see if I can edit it down. But Jason, how about you take us away with a quote?
I want to fly away. No, that's not it.
That's not the one we have here.
It is not abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Take it easy, people.
Later.